President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of new military service chiefs, including a new National Security Advisor, Acting Inspector General of Police, and Acting Controller General of Customs. He also appointed new presidential guards and 4 new advisors. Now, this is contained in a statement from the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, which sacked all previous occupants of the positions. Arise News' Ferdinand Duroha reports.
Barely 3 weeks after President Bola Tinubu's inauguration, major shakeups in the polity have opened up mixed reactions from all quarters. The latest is the retirement of service chiefs and their immediate replacements. The new appointments are Malam Nuhu Ribadu, who is the National Security Advisor. Major General Christopher Musa is now the Chief of Defense Staff. Major General T.A. Lagbaja is the Chief of Army Staff. Rear Admiral E.A. Ogala, the Chief of Naval Staff, and Air Vice Marshal Abubakar, the Chief of Air Staff. Major General E.P. Ondonde is the new Chief of Defense Intelligence, while DIG Kayode Egbetukun is the Acting Inspector General of Police. Also, the President has approved the appointment of Adeni Bashir Adewale as the Acting Controller General of Customs. Similarly, the President has approved the appointment of other military officers in the presidential villa. Major Isa Farouk Aldu is the Commanding Officer of the State House Artillery. Captain Kazim Olalekon Sumonu is the second in command of the State House Artillery. Major Kamaru Kuejo Hamzat is now the Acting Officer, State House Military Intelligence. Major T.S. Adeola is the Commanding Officer, State House Armament. The statement of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation says all appointed service chiefs, the Inspector General of Police and the Comptroller General of Customs are to act in their positions pending their confirmation in accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Also, the President has approved the appointment of 2 additional special advisors and 2 senior assistants. Hadiza Bala Usman is Special Advisor Policy Coordination, while Hanatu Musa Musawa is the Special Advisor Culture and Entertainment Economy. Senator Abdullahi Abubakar Gumel is the Senior Special Assistant on National Assembly Matters for the Senate, while Honorable Olanrewaju Kunle Ibrahim is the Senior Special Assistant on National Assembly Matters for the House of Reps. With these appointments, Nigerians will be watching to see in what direction that the appointees will shape the different policies of President Tinubu. Ferdinand Duroha, Arise News.
All right, thanks for staying with us, everyone. This is something definitely to discuss tonight. We have Mahmud Jega, Arise analyst, and Frank Tietie, a lawyer, also Arise analyst, joining us both. Both of you gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Now, let's talk about these appointments. Mahmud Jega, I mean, how surprising? Is it just the removal of the service chiefs, considering that the first week of this month, of June, we had President Tinubu giving the marching orders to the service chiefs, saying they should crush all thieves and every security threat to the country. How surprising is this move right now for you?
It was not a surprise.
Right.
Everybody expects a new administration to make critical appointments, and appointment of the service chiefs and the police IG is one of the most critical appointments, as well as the National Security Advisor, some of the most critical appointments that the president can make. Now, some presidents made it actually from day one. In 1999, President Obasanjo, as soon as he left Eagle Square, announced the appointment of new service and the security chiefs. Others take some time, like former President Buhari took 3 months until August before he made his appointments, and now President Tinubu took 3 weeks. So everybody has his own style, but it was not unexpected at all.
Amazing. So you are saying that, well, it came quite earlier than that of President Muhammad Buhari, and of course that's a good point for him there. Let's get to Frank Tietie from our offside studio. Frank, one point of attention on these appointments is what Nigerians have been talking about since it was announced. It's ethnic balancing. How do you want to assess the ethnic balancing of these appointments?
Well, I think that the president has done the needful. It isn't coming as a surprise. And directly to your question, there is, to a large extent, a measure of ethnic balancing. I did a last-minute check on the personalities that were appointed and discovered that Emmanuel Ogala appears to be from Enugu State, and that settles the issue of a somewhat bias against the Southeast in this government. One would have thought that in the 95% against 5% formula that was once talked about by a former president would be applicable in terms of the voting patterns. But what we have seen is a president who is now very interested in the security of the presidency, to the extent that it's unprecedented that military formations in Suleja, Gwagwalada, Asokoro, are now being mentioned, those and the State House are now being mentioned along with the appointment of service chiefs. So I think on the face of it, the ethnic balancing issue has been solved because that animosity, that apprehension with regards to the exclusion of the Southeast may have been laid to rest with the inclusion of Ogala to be the head of an important section of the military, the Navy. Going beyond that, we're seeing a president that doesn't want to take chances with regards to the security of the presidency, to the extent that even the defense intelligence chief was mentioned. That contradicts a former president that in the hope of trying to do, in the manner of trying to do national and ethnic balancing, was adopted a laissez-faire approach in the appointment of the national security advisors, together with the appointment of military chiefs, to the extent that he lost an election because he felt that many of these personalities were not very loyal. And Boko Haram and other national security issues festered under his presidency. This time around, we're seeing the president that is closely appointing persons that I believe he trusts. Take, for example, DIG Egbetokun. My last-minute check also proved the supplied an information that Egbetokun was actually either a CSO to Tinubu while he was President Tinubu, I must say, while he was governor of Lagos State, or he was a very important police official in his government. Now, it's important that presidents don't play with the issues of loyalty when it comes to securing the Federal Capital Territory, the State House, and then dealing with the national security problem. I must quickly mention that Nuhu Ribadu comes as a very strange appointment. Nevertheless, there is nothing that is wrong about it, because if we are copying presidential federalism from the United States, and where it appears to be an unwritten rule that the national security advisor must be a very senior retired military officer, but the United States hasn't had that history. So we've seen a Condoleezza Rice, a woman that hasn't been in the military, that actually played a very important role as the national security advisor in the United States. So there must be a very strong reason why President Tinubu has appointed Nuhu Ribadu. And Nuhu Ribadu has all the credentials to actually carry on in that office. For example, he was the head of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission at a time where that agency actually had the greatest international exposure in terms of interaction with other security formations across the world for the purpose of halting money laundering and financing of terrorism. So I think he has quite a lot to offer. So we should shelve that notion that he would not be respected because he was never an Inspector General of Police, neither was he in any of the military wings. Nevertheless, he appears to carry a whole lot of experience when it comes to international security and being exposed to a high-level intelligence when it comes to national security. So by and large, the president seems to be very focused and has not disappointed in the way he has appointed these security chiefs. There is is ethnic balancing, the fear of excluding the Southeast, not so well accentuated.
All right, back to you, Mahmud Jega. I mean, you want to react to that point made. I mean, Frank Tietie believes it is reflective of the national spread as far as the appointment of service chiefs is concerned. And I'd also like you to talk about how these appointments really will influence, you know, the policies of this administration.
Security is always at the top of any president's priority, especially at this time in Nigeria. The president has very grand plans for economic revival and transformation, but of course, when you have so many criminals, insurgents here, bandits there, oil pirates there, some secessionist agitators there, then honestly, your program of infrastructural and economic development might not go very far. Now, we as members of the public may not know everything about the capability of the military service chiefs, the newly appointed, but of course the president must have done due diligence, he must have seen their files, he must have checked their records, he must have probably spoken to their former superiors. Some of them we know from their activities, like the new army chief, Lagwaja. He was the GOC of the 1DIV in Kaduna, and he was really leading from the front in the fight against insurgents in Birnin Gwari and in southern Kaduna area. Very, very dynamic one from what we learned of his activities that time. So I'm sure the others may not be as well known, but the president must have studied the situation carefully, because the most important thing is for them to deliver. As Barrister Tietie is saying, you know, the public perception about balancing whether he appointed from this area or for that, yes, that's important for politics, but the most important thing in the end is for them to deliver. If they deliver security, wherever they are from, people will stand up and cheer them. That is the bottom line.
Right. I'm still staying with you, Mahmud Jega. This really has come as a surprise, maybe not necessarily to a lot of people. Ribadu being made the National Security Advisor now, after only being named a Special Advisor on Security. Why do you think the President may have made that change?
Honestly, only a few days ago, he was appointed Special Advisor to the President on Security, and you know there was confusion even in the media.
Right.
People were saying, is this the same position as National Security Advisor? But we heard that no, the former NSA was still in his office, so it's a different, and it didn't look like a very good arrangement, because if you have the NSA and then you have a presidential advisor on security, you know, inevitably there might be territorial encroachment and some conflict. But it now turns out that the president was actually just preparing the ground to make Nuhu Ribadu the national security advisor. And I agree entirely with what Barrister Tietie said, that he is very well qualified for the position as a very senior police officer. So many of the former presidents appointed retired military general, so much so that Nigerians came to think that the position is best occupied by soldiers, but that is not necessarily true. The National Security Advisor's position is mostly intelligence, intellectual analysis, good judgment, good advice, proper implementation of policy and things like that. So you don't have to be a soldier. In the US and other places, you see university professors. One of the greatest national security advisors in the US was Henry Kissinger. He was not a soldier by any means. He was a Harvard University professor. So really, it is a good appointment, I believe.
Okay, we're back to you, Frank, from our offside studio. We're back to you. Just coming in is the announcement from the Secretary to the Government of the Federation that the President has announced the dissolution of all boards. All boards have been dissolved. Now, coming at a time as this, how does it impact on these new appointments, and what should we expect?
Well, to be honest with you, because the preceding presidency has been quite slow in these appointments, Nigerians are heaving a sigh of relief that there is a president who appears to mean business. A few days ago, there was, before this appointment of this new service chief, there appeared to be a sort of a requiem mass that was held for them with regards to their failure when Sari Dokubo visited the president and laid clear that the military we failed, especially in protecting a critical national infrastructure with regards to oil installations. That now preceded the new chiefs. That is an indication that President Tinubu wants something new and he wants it fast and he hasn't got time to waste. So he fires and then he replaces immediately with in such an unprecedented manner. Now, this news coming up with regards to the dissolution of boards is also expected. We're talking about service here. To be honest with you, a president who wants to work knows that 4 years is very short and that he doesn't have a few days to waste. And so with the replacement of new service chiefs and appointment of new special advisors with portfolios attached to them, no waste of time with regards to acting positions or going to search for square pegs and square holes, shows that there was some preliminary work, good work done. Now, again, you will now see something that is becoming quite apparent, that President Tinubu is not very much ready for much of political patronage in the way he does his appointment. He's not seemingly, even though we expect that there are very many more appointments that are yet to be made. The dissolution of the boards of parastatals means that it's now going to be payback time for persons who will now be appointed to constitute this board. However, what is more important is that the color, the texture and tenor of a presidency is often measured in the service delivery by these boards. So it's not only for settlement purposes, because we see CVs flying around, we see political jobbers being employed to go and knock doors and open doors for persons to get political appointment. But one body language, if we must import that same terminology, is that President Tinubu doesn't appear to be ready to do much of political settlement with these appointments. Judging from what he has done so far, he's gone for technocrats, he's gone for new persons, he has attacked the previous, he's humiliated the previous military chiefs by allowing Asari Dokubo to visit State House and to address the world from State House press gallery, in a damning manner against the Nigerian military. The president, seems to want real action. So let's see how it comes up. But what I must say is that if he doesn't settle those persons who have helped him politically, it appears that he is reserving such political settlement for ministerial positions. So nothing different may be expected in the way he will reconstitute these boards of parastatals that he has just announced the dissolution.
Mahmud Jega, your reaction to this one? This president really promised to hit the ground running. Is that what you're saying? With these dissolutions, removals, and what have you? Now, all boards in Nigeria have been removed.
The problem is that the federal boards are very, very many. With the failure of the last two administrations to act on the Orosanye report and consolidate on the number of parastatals, I think we are now talking about more than 400 of them. Although there are some probably, I don't know whether, like the councils of universities and polytechnics and colleges of education, those ones. And then there are also some statutory boards that have some independent, I mean, for example, maybe you can dissolve the National Electoral, Independent National Electoral Commission easily, and a few other agencies like that. But most others are at the president's discretion to dissolve. Now, of course, dissolving them is only the first step. The next very important step is to reconstitute them. Because part of the problem is that, when there are no ministers, and right now we don't have ministers, any agency that does not have a board of directors, it is the minister that exercises the powers of the board of directors. But if you don't have ministers and then you also don't have boards, then you can imagine that the management will be floundering, it will be on its own. So it is very important to move fast and reconstitute.
Yes.
The Buhari administration took years to reconstitute boards. That should not happen. There are very many, but if the government moves fast, it can be done within weeks at most.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, we have to say thank you very much. Mahmud Jega, a RISE analyst. Frank Tietie is a lawyer and a RISE analyst. I must point out the chief executive officers of those parastatals will take over. Well, in the meantime, President Bola Tinubu has approved the immediate dissolution of the governing boards of all federal government parastatals, agencies, institutions, and government-owned companies in the exercise of its constitutional powers and in the interest of the public interest.
The dissolution does not, however, affect boards, commissions and councils listed in the third schedule, part 1, section 153 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. In view of this development, and until such a time new boards are constituted, the chief executive officers of the parastatals, agencies, institutions and government-owned companies are directed to refer matters requiring the attention of their boards to the President through the permanent secretaries of their respective supervisory ministries and offices.